Yes. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And Jacob Wild, too.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we find ourselves on the cusp of Disney's big venture into the world of streaming, even courting a war in the process, we thought it'd be nice to stay up to date on the ever-growing catalog and rule on what's a must or a bust on Disney Plus. And no, folks, tonight, unfortunately, we're not here to talk about Hamilton. I'm sorry. That'll have to wait. That requires preparation, and a lot of people want to be on for that, and we have scheduling to adhere to. So you'll have to wait for Hamilton. But we've got something pretty cool to talk about, though. We've got the Mandalorian. Star Wars, The Mandalorian, Disney. Wow, I said that completely backwards.
Yes, you did.
Disney Gallery, Star Wars, The Mandalorian. Wow, that was a dyslexia moment there, Tiki. Good job. I'm getting old.
Man.
I mean, it's not like it's in front of you or anything.
I know, right?
It's not like you need to read.
All right, so guys, I'm just gonna start this thing off with a mission statement here, and that I think. Dragon, I know it's true of you. I'm not sure of Jacob, but I think it's fair to say that a lot of people, a fair share of people, got their inspiration for filmmaking and kind of like their spark of imagination, not just through Star Wars, but specifically through Star Wars making of, through the behind the scenes of it all. And of course, I'm going to court two different Star Wars documentaries here that were key influences in my childhood, in my teenage years. In my childhood, it was From Star Wars to Jedi, the making of Return of the Jedi. Dragon, you remember that one?
I do remember that one, yes.
And then, of course, from my teenage years, let us forget the best Star Wars documentary of all time, in my opinion, which is Empire of Dreams.
Nothing beats Empire of Dreams. That's the one that made me a Star Wars fan. That's the one that gave me the itch.
I know Empire's on Plus, but is the Jedi one on Disney Plus?
I think it's on YouTube. I think
it's on YouTube. Yeah, I doubt it's on Disney Plus.
I don't think it's on Plus.
I'd be surprised. It'd be a weird archival pull if it were on Plus.
Because I know Empire of Dreams is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Again, by the way, speaking of weird things that are on Plus right now, they're really trying to push Fan 4 Stick.
And the Mighty Ducks.
Well, the Mighty Ducks, okay, don't you dare lump the Mighty Ducks in with Fan 4 Stick, Dragon, okay? I know a subset of people who are
No, I'm just saying they're pushing it. It's an odd thing to push. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Mighty Ducks is, I know a subset of people. I'm not among them, but I know a subset of people.
Not bad, I'm just saying it's out of left field is all. Like, why now? Anyway.
Dragon, hear me out. I'm just saying that there's a subset of people out there that are more excited for the Mighty Ducks than they are for Hamilton.
Let's refocus. Can we refocus, please?
So, my point is, Star Wars always makes excellent documentaries, always the spark of imagination for filmmakers everywhere, and just film nerds who love talking about movies. And with that brings us to Disney Gallery Star Wars The Mandalorian, which is a Jon Favreau hosted roundtable, if you will, essentially in 8 parts. Now, Dragon, what surprised me about this, and I'm sure you told me about this, but I initially went into it expecting it to be episode by episode. And so I was kind of delighted to find that each episode was an individual component. And I know you told me about that beforehand, but just watching it through, it was nice to see how much it wove its way through. And it wasn't just like, oh, here's going into this, I was worried that it was basically going to be like a DVD bonus feature type thing. And in the end, I feel like it was more narrative driven than that. And I really respect the voices that it brought to the table. And I got to say, after watching this, I think that Filoni should have Kennedy's job. No disrespect to Kennedy. I actually think she was very well spoken in this, but I really think Filoni just has his nail on the pulse of Star Wars better than anyone.
We'll get to the evidence later.
Well, leave Kennedy in charge of Lucasfilm, but Filoni in charge of Star Wars.
There you go. Let's see what Kennedy's doing on Indy 5 before we judge. Then we'll review her employment options going forward.
I'm gonna have a hot take here. A hot take, all right? Everyone knows how much I don't like the Jungle, or I don't like the Lion King. I like the Jungle Book. I don't love it, but I like it. Yeah. But seeing how Jon Favreau conducts himself, seeing just how involved he was in the process here, you know, guys, I gotta tell you, Favreau is looking very Walt Disney-esque. Like I know he's not like business isn't his thing, but I really wouldn't mind someone like Favreau as a figurehead of the entire company, because I really feel like just in every area, this guy really he's so passionate, man. He's got like a Walt level passion behind every little component to this thing.
I mean, he touched a remake of Walt's last movie. He's touched Marvel, Star Wars.
Of course, let's not forget what he's done for the MCU, basically getting the thing off the ground.
So I don't know, man. I'm just saying, if we want a Walt level CEO, Favreau might be the way to go. And like I said, I know that business isn't exactly his wheelhouse, but
at least make him like a creative officer or something.
Right,
absolutely,
something like that.
Sure.
And as far as Plus goes, it only leads him to be involved with Pixar, and that's pretty much Plus all across the board.
Oh God, give Favreau a Pixar movie, please.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be amazing.
Well, again, we know from this thing that he again was looking towards like how would Pixar approach making the Mandalorian. That's kind of was one of his mantras in making. So if you need more proof, Pixar, let's have open ears on this, guys.
And Filoni worked in animation, so he has
very true. I mean, let's do a co-op here. Maybe Favreau produces, Filoni directs. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe Favreau writes the thing, Filoni directs it. You know, I don't know.
Wasn't there like once a rumor? I could swear there was like once a rumor that Pixar was actually going to make a Star Wars movie.
There was. It was like a fleeting thing, but yeah, it was. They also talking about
it was probably never going to be a thing, but it was like people like saying it or something.
Anyway, it's my thesis. Quite simple.
Really quick, we got Claude in the comments here. He's just telling us about Phineas and Ferb. Claude, yeah, we'll definitely talk about Phineas and Ferb when that comes out for sure. I'm looking forward to it. Also, another thing I'm looking forward to, Claude. Oh God, Jacob, help me out here. What? This is me showing my old man age again. Like, what's that? What's the new animated show coming to HBO Max?
You mean like is it the? I mean, I don't really know. I mean, like I know the Looney Tunes cartoons.
Nah, forget it. Claude, if you know what it is, I'm.
Is it close enough?
Yes, that's it. Close enough. Yes, close enough. And also Central Park as well. So there's some animated stuff, Claude, that I definitely I'm looking into now that you're just to give an update. Anyways, Dragon, go ahead.
All right. Thesis for me, quite simple.
Yes.
I think this instills a lot of hope in the Disney Plus documentaries and docu-series as a whole. If we already didn't have enough kind of built in with the Imagineering story of it all. I mean, we've all been very impressed by that. Absolute prop culture as well. Again, more or less doc. I mean, that's the thing. It is kind of. I guess it is a docu-series, but by the same token, it's a little bit more of like a reality kind. I don't know. It's a little. You know what I mean. Anyway, so Disney guy with Mandalorian. This I love that. I was so impressed. We didn't approach it as I anticipated. I anticipated this going like basically each episode would be focused on the corresponding episode, being its 8 parts. Mm-hmm. But I love how it made the choice to be reflective of the show, which with each installment as a new adventure in the production, much like each installment of The Mandalorian is a new kind of adventure in the Mandalorian's quest, as it were. It was a very smart call in that it's not just documenting the production; it's kind of mirroring it, and it's kind of really kind of showing its best self. It really makes it leaves you off wanting more, but it was such a great and informative time. It was wonderful.
I guess I'll keep brief since you guys pretty much said all I kind of wanted to say. But I mean, I do agree with Dragon that it is like. I mean, Disney Plus is continuing to roll out these pretty great docu-series. I mean, Imagineering stories set the bar pretty high, and it's been pretty well met with these recent ones. I mean, I've yet to see the Frozen 2 documentary, which I want to get.
I've yet to look into that either, and that's gonna really prove the bar with us, because you and I, pretty infamously, not the biggest Frozen 2 fans.
I watched the first couple minutes of it. Of the doc, because again I had to stop myself because I can't just binge through it all, because we need to save some stuff for the July memoirs after all. But the fact of the matter is, and basically when we do it like on a Disney, and basically kind of a Plus&Us for next time. Point is, watch first minutes, and it kind of seems to be aware that think that it's kind of like it's almost like a doomed to failure sort of thing, where it's sort of like,
really? Okay,
well, not I shouldn't say doomed to failure, but it's like basically a thing.
We're hijacking Jacob here. I'm sorry,
go on, Jacob.
But yeah, but I just say it's like this actually gives a lot. I really like appreciate like all the behind the scenes. I'm like a behind the scenes nerd when it comes to like movies, TV shows, all that kind of thing. Like seeing all like how like all the combination of like the technical, the practical, the physical, everything, like the digital, all these people coming together to make this show. Like they don't pretend, and they even don't pretend how difficult it was at times. Like they say it was actually quite difficult to put this together, and and they made it look easy. I mean, look at how well the show turned out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, seeing all like the different people like in their specific areas was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's break them down. We're just going to go through the episodes, kind of talk about the high points, as it were. I mean, some of them might go by a little quicker because there was an 18-minute episode amongst the bunch. Pretty much, it's kind of each stage of the filmmaking got some cool stories. So let's see what comes of it. So, episode 1, directing. So, big thing we should hit right out the start here is we established the format of how most of this is going down in the first episode, which basically what Jon Favreau did is he used to have a show. I don't know if you guys ever saw it. Jon Favreau used to have an interview show. I believe that came on the Indie Film Network, on the Indie Film Channel. I don't know if it was directly made for them, but it feels like it was. It was called The Dinner for Five, where he sits down with a bunch of other people.
I have seen this, yes.
And this is kind of the model for some, I assume some of the other stuff he's been doing later, like that cooking thing, the chef spin-off on Netflix. It's it's kind of like not chef, but
that's some really good comfort food, Dragon.
I will,
unintended.
Kiki, trust me, I will get to it, okay? But as you can tell, a little backlogged on little chock full of the TV this month. So, point being, so it's kind of based on his old Dinner for Five set, which brought some really great conversational stuff, and also basically we interspersed it with some footage and interviews. That's kind of how we approached this, and I thought it was really refreshing. It was a really smart call, and it feels very natural for Favreau to kind of sit down the directors and the specific crews as we go along in this little round table, little retrospective approach.
Yeah. All right. So, who were some of your highlight director? Let's say Filoni for the second episode. I would say, although Filoni is I scratch that. I take that back.
Let's hit like the top of it here with Filoni.
Filoni is important because he's an animation director transitioning into live action, and so that it's a very interesting kind of approach.
Yeah, the big thing you got to remember with Filoni is that he is kind of the he worked with George Lucas on Clone Wars in the early days, like not during the last season, but during he was in many respects he is kind of the protege of George Lucas, which you kind of forget that about Filoni, when you really, because again, I've known Filoni, and I've seen his name in all the Avatar stuff. I think I've heard maybe a commentary or two. So I was always familiar a little bit with Filoni, but you rarely ever see the guy and really get to have like an extended conversation or hear an extended conversation from the guy. And he's so informed. He's a wealth of information. Of course, he tells some really great stories. And as you mentioned, with the Leap 2 live action, his prank call story is hysterical. He's working for Nickelodeon Avatar, and he gets the call like, "Hey, we're looking for someone to do this animated Clone Wars series."
And he's like, "It's the SpongeBob guys, isn't it?"
Yeah.
I love how he does the SpongeBob voice, like he does the Tom Kenny voice, like we're. It's great.
But the man just has an excellent story. Think about where his career has gone from. He started on King of the Hill to Avatar: Last Airbender to Clone Wars and now Mandalorian. The man has an excellent track record.
I mean, let's just face it, going from King of the Hill to Avatar, major step up.
Yes, certainly. But
I mean, no disrespect to King of the Hill, but
I'm saying he's starting in a serviceable place. He's starting in a serviceable.
Yeah.
It does probably speak to his Texas origins as well. So he's very. That's what I'm saying. It's a respectable place to start, and he jumps in the straight. He could go home happy with Avatar, and then gets the CG Clone Wars, and then Mando.
All
right, so let's talk Deborah Chow.
I don't have a lot to say about all these directors.
Well, here's what I want to say about Deborah Chow. You're going to appreciate this about Deborah Chow. I don't know if we hit this when we talked about Mandalorian, but Deborah Chow, she's worked on a lot of stuff that we like. She did Better Call Saul. She did Something Stupid.
I knew that about her. Yeah.
She did episode 7 from season 3, and she did, season. Crap, I think it was. 4.
Moot point.
You're right. Okay, she did Jessica Jones. She did Mr. Robot. She did the Vera episode of Mr. Robot, the first season.
Oh man, that's one of my favorites.
That's what I'm saying. That's Deborah Chow. So basically, the main thing.
When I see you, I'm gonna hug you.
Yeah. So the main thing to set up here, she loves stormtroopers, which definitely comes into play in the penultimate episode. She comes with a game plan experience, kind of the main thing to hit there. Let's talk about one of the big standout directors. Let's talk about Rick Famuyiwa.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Like, I love how how basically his shock of being in charge of basically Baby Yoda's big episode. he's basically like, wait, you're putting me in charge of this one? I mean, but the guy definitely tackled it well. I mean, he talked about how he wasn't exactly new to it and was a fan of Star Wars, and how basically described it. He was the one who described it like a big play box.
Yeah, I love how he describes the Jawa episode, which honestly, as awesome as the last couple episodes of Mando were, I still think the Jawa episode is my personal favorite, just because of how much of a sandbox episode that episode was.
It's the cut man of Mandalorian. Do I still love the episode 8 of Daredevil? Absolutely, but still, how do you not cut man? That's the thing. How do you knock? And
I also feel like that episode was the definitive Mandalorian is Samurai Jack equivalent. Honestly.
Yes, absolutely, certainly. So big, as you mentioned, so he is very much kind of like Kevin Smith. He's a kid of '77. He's very much kind of life very, very forged with going to see A New Hope. As many of these are the OG Star Wars fans, the ones you wish you were these guys. And I love that this guy's relatively new to TV. He doesn't really do much TV. His big movie was Dope, the thing which I believe Shameik Moore, the one who.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, if the kid's name is Shameik Moore, he's the one who became Miles Morales in Into the Spider-Verse.
Yep, that's him.
Yes, he's the main guy in Dope. Yeah, okay, let's see. So he basically, as Jake kind of alluded to, he loved misfit characters. He basically loved kind of the Star Wars side characters. Was absolutely kind of fed into the Jawas of it all, and the whole, basically the credo of the show. We're working with our brother. Discarded, took all the cool toys. We're left with the leftovers.
That's great. And somehow we ended up with a Boba Fett.
Yes, he had a Boba Fett and you painted it silver.
made him cooler.
Yeah, which is just great. So basically, he hit the mini movie quality of Mandalorian very well with his episode.
Oh, absolutely, better than any other director, I think.
So let's say Bryce Dallas Howard. Of course, she had this really fun story about meeting George Lucas as a kid when she went to Japan, where Ron Howard meets George Lucas and Kurosawa, and yet we have Kurosawa-inspired episodes of Mandalorian years later. That's really impressive.
Yeah, basically, she couldn't understand what anybody was saying. She fell asleep in her father's lap.
Yeah. Of course, years later, her father directs a Star Wars movie as well. It's
and the thing is, she didn't realize she was in a room with giants.
I've told you guys the story of how my study skills teacher saw he walked by a diner where Coppola, Lucas, and De Palma were having lunch.
Oh yeah. Well, remember, Tika, they kind of have a Pixar kind of Wall-E conversation.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying. My teacher witnessed one of those in person.
Nice, very nice. I know what conversation he's specifically talking about in that case. Anyway, okay, so, well, the thing to note with Bryce Dallas Howard, I love how they kind of chided with. They threw her into the deep waters. It's like we sent in the new person for the really difficult episode, the one that was we're kind of we're in a familiar niche on the rest of the episodes, but the one where we have to sell that Mando might actually contemplate giving things up and taking off the helmet, which is in one episode. That's gonna be a really hard one to do, and your bad guy's a chicken walker. That's a hard sell, especially throw a new.
I didn't even think about how the chicken walker thing, because I feel like the episode in itself does such a great job of making that walker into a threat. I didn't even think about the fact that it is the lame version of an AT-AT.
Yeah. Plus, her stuff probably is some of the most practical stuff in the setting. Because I know we're going to get to it with the 4th episode, but you know what I mean. The fact is, that one has they have water in the set and everything. That's got to be difficult to imagine. All right, so Mr. Waititi, Taika Waititi, the man, the myth, sometimes Hitler in his off time.
Jacob.
What?
Oh! It sounded like you were trying to say something. Sorry.
No, sorry. Okay. But yeah, Waititi was a lot of fun. see, like you can tell that like he's also technically he's also someone who's touched both Marvel and Star Wars in a way.
That he has. That he has.
Oh, yeah.
And he
Very well.
even has a new movie coming out for
That
Star
he
Wars.
does. That he does.
So this is, I guess you could call this him getting his feet wet. but yeah, seeing him talk about like all that and like interspliced with him being like basically being IG-11 was quite interesting, and being to direct the season finale, it was quite an interesting look at how he did all that. And he's like, am I really doing this?
Two things with Tedi's. I kind of learned something interesting about him. I didn't know he really got his start as a director at age 30, which is really interesting. He had kind of
yeah. He was a latecomer for sure.
Yeah, look how far he's gotten.
I mean, he stepped into it quite well.
Yeah, I mean, Oscar-nominated director too. I mean, it's.
Dragon, have you seen What We Do in the Shadows?
I saw the clips that were in this, and I've heard a little bit, but I have not watched it. No.
Very worth looking into. Very. I mean, obviously, like, I think he's only gone up in terms of like prolific, in terms of filmmaking. But I think the writing in What We Do in the Shadows might be his strongest writing ever. Honestly,
I love his make-do method that he's kind of like. I love that as a filmmaking method. As you work with what you have, which is what Waititi did, as he mentioned with what he did in What You Do in the Shadows. Where basically it's like borrowing things from other movies, and you work with what you have and you get so much out of it.
Oh, he's calling Wetas see if they have any stuff left over from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, we have like the bad interview gag. Waititi does this all the time. I listen to his commentary on Jojo Rabbit. He did this. Like, he's very self-deprecating, and that it definitely came across like the interview we did here. It was like, oh yeah, it was terrible, especially with Bryce Dallas Howard. I don't like her at all. It's like just doing it hilarious. Just really funny. So on the whole, the directing thing, I love Jon Favreau, the writer, put together this trust of directors to adapt this story.
I really like that, like how they all have like a sense of camaraderie with each other.
Oh yeah,
certainly.
And I'm looking. I mean, this is for like second season thing, but I can't really wait to see what Robert Rodriguez does.
Oh, it's gonna be because Jon Favreau and Rodriguez are really good pals too. That's gonna be great. Okay, so yeah, let's move on to Legacy then.
All right. I mean, guys, honestly, like this is a great episode, but I feel like it's one of those things where like that freaking speech, man.
Yeah, I know. This is the one I hyped you on the show with.
You did, and you didn't disappoint. Oh man, I mean, Dragon, just build up to that speech. All right, I don't even know what to say beyond it.
So the whole of the Legacy episode is very much Dave Filoni's episode, as well as kind of the tribute to George Lucas. So Legacy is very much through George Lucas, which also obviously correlates to Dave Filoni being kind of the mouthpiece of like, okay, this is what George did for the prequels. But here's the interesting did for the franchise as a whole. But what I'm getting at here is that I love how they frame the whole thing, the whole conversation that builds to the big Filoni moment as we're paralleling Mandalorian being in a position much like the prequels were after the original Star Wars. Because think about it. You go through this, and now Mandalorian, like after we have new Star Wars and everything, Star Wars is back on the board, and you're looking back. So Mandalorian, in a certain way of looking at it, is kind of in the new prequel position. We're doing more Star Wars. How can we reinvent it? And we're going backwards from where we are currently with Star Wars. So it is Mando was the new prequel, but for the modern day, which is trippy when you think about it. And that's kind of what that's kind of like where they're starting and how they wonderfully build up the whole, the Darth Maul.
All right. So, yeah, the Duel of Fate. I mean, oh man, just. Basically, I feel like what Filoni's saying with the Duel of Fates, how essentially the Duel of Fates, it's not just a kick-ass, really well choreographed, awesomely scored sequence. It's Anakin Skywalker's fate in a nutshell. That's why it's called the Duel of
Which
Fates.
I never thought of it that way until they framed it like this, which blew me.
Essentially, if Qui-Gon lives and he has a mentor that actually has Anakin's best interests in heart, and I feel like definitively, like we know that Qui-Gon would lead Anakin in a positive direction in terms of the feelings towards his mother and not write them off like Obi-Wan did. All due respect to Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan never wanted anything to do with this kid in the first place.
He was the older brother figure who didn't want a younger brother. That's
exactly. So in this Duel of Fates, it's so fascinating, and honestly, it's great. But I feel like the bigger picture here is like, holy shit, Dave Filoni has his finger more on the pulse of Star Wars than arguably any human being alive.
Absolutely, because basically what he did here is that it's just this. It's his MVP moment where he sells everyone on the prequels via this analysis. It's like a
Mhm.
7 minute. It's like a 7 minute analysis, which is brilliant, and you can see all the other directors are captivated by what he's saying. They don't dare interrupt him until
Oh
Favreau
God,
jumps
Dragon!
in.
You know what I just
Like, dude,
realized? You
what?
remember that stupid Frost Nixon thing that we always dreamt that would happen with Lucas, where he apologized for the
Yeah.
prequels?
Basically, if we did
This
like
is
a
like the
third,
reverse Frost Nixon, man, and it's great.
it is pretty great. Like basically all the mind bending themes and revelations about kind of the subtle arc within the Duel of Fates of it all there. And basically, as you kind of laid out there wonderfully, and it's basically Qui-Gon Jinn representing the hope of the Jedi, that they could be emotional, they could incorporate love. But again, when Qui-Gon
Mhm.
dies, that hope dies, and that's what led. And basically, when the Jedi dies, Anakin can't go
There's
the
a
Jedi
reason
path.
why the Jedi are a bunch of assholes in the prequels, frankly.
And again, Qui-Gon was the hope that could change. With him dying, the fate is kind of
The
sealed.
Qui-Gon quagmire.
Yes, and basically it boils down to this full circle love for a father in a lightsaber battle in Jedi, which is
Uh-huh.
all the way to Return of the Jedi, where it's going to be the boy who didn't have a father becomes the father he never had. When just saying that alone, it's like magical. When you look at it all in context, it's
Like
like.
poetry, it rhymes.
And what's even better too, it's just so trippy. If you look again, Darth Maul. Look at Dave Filoni, especially getting the last season of Clone Wars, where Darth Maul was kind of revived by Dave Filoni. I know like the extended universe and all that stuff kind of brought him into the fray. But I'm saying the stuff that counted was like the animated stuff that you can at least count, where Darth Maul came back in the fray. Dave Filoni had a huge hand in that, again, via him and George Lucas. And it's the fact that how connected it all was, and Darth Maul kind of shaped Dave Filoni's destiny, much like he shaped young Anakin Skywalker's destiny in kind of the 7-minute analysis.
Well, let's just hope Dave Filoni doesn't go crazy and do all that.
Yeah, sure. Hopefully, yeah. They have also just another thing just to add in there. They also have like all the patents. George Lucas had like 126 patents, like with edit droid, motion control work, and like and a whole bunch of ILM. It's crazy to think about all the patents that George Lucas had in the making of Star Wars and everything. And like they're talking about like kind of the how like westerns inspired Star Wars, and how like Mando and the whole Mando and IG arc, all that sort of stuff. Basically, it's more than shootouts. It's the heart within the westerns. That's something that shows you they really got what they were aiming for in terms of paralleling legacies of a different era.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on to cast. And this is one, like, I don't have a ton to say about it, but honestly, just because I feel like it was a little bit more of a standard, like, hey, look, here's all these people and their connection to Star Wars, and they all love Star Wars, and they're all stoked to be on set. It's basically what it boils down to.
Well, I mean, the bigger thing is we establish, okay, how many people are in the Mando costume and that sort of thing. Or okay, so Pascal is in the suit usually when he speaks.
That's true.
But otherwise, it's like if there's the gunslinger one and there's the fighting. You have Brendan Wayne as the gunslinger and Lateef Crowder as the fighter. And the other thing to note is I do love. Yeah, go on.
And it did show like that that Pedro Pascal actually does record the dialogue separately.
He does, yes. Just to make sure it gets transferred. I'm sure he's saying something on the set too. That's what I'm saying. When he's doing like the acting, like nods and the head movements, and
he redubs it basically.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Which I'm sure is easy, given he doesn't have a mouth, so it should be like a painless kind of. That's the thing. I love that. Like they kind of talk about the challenge of a masked lead and how he has to convey character through stillness and like the slightest movements. And the directors also spoke to this a little bit too. It's very. After all, I've been doing a deep dive on Kane Hodder again, and of course, Kane Hodder played the better Jasons within the Friday the 13th series. And what's great is like that's what was his big claim to fame: a character with a mask who you can't really get an emotion from outside just being like a Frankenstein walking around. Like the little breath and like the little movements convey so much. We had some fun stories, like how Pedro Pascal broke his, he injured his nose, like in his trailer. The guy's done Narcos and he never hurt himself, never had to go to the hospital while shooting something in his trailer. He stumbles and he hits his face on the inside of the mask. So Gina Carano. So we learned she was actually they got her after Haywire.
Man, I'm still just in love with Cara Dune, man. She's like, I keep thinking about how much like she is everything right about what they fucked up with Rey.
Well, I think it's maybe a little bit of a. I don't know if it's the best comparison, but
I'm
hear
just
your
saying
point.
in terms of the girl power thing.
You're right. Oh, in that regard, yes, sure. That's the thing.
Because it's like, whereas with Rey, it's just like, hey, here's a super powerful character, and with Cara Dune, it's like, hey, here's a kick-ass character, and there's a difference. There's a difference between being inherently powerful and being just kick-ass.
She's doing the majority of her own stunts too, which is rather impressive. Like she's carrying that unconscious Mando, darn it. No, but seriously, Gina
I still maintain that she's a Xena warrior princess of the Star Wars universe.
I love I love that Carano's work on Haywire and Deadpool, caught Favreau's eye, and that's kind of like he's also friends with Saber. That kind of got her in the whole thing, and basically they went for authentic Western casting, where you cast someone who's like good for the role versus just like a big name actor. Where, she's like they're thinking about things like the silhouette factor. I love that. I think Kathleen Kennedy or someone, maybe Bryce Dallas, someone was one of the female people on the panel. They said she cast a memorable silhouette like a Star Wars character should.
She absolutely
and you look
does,
at her from a distance, and yes, that's Cara Dune, man. I love that. I love that how Grief Karga, of course, the great Carl Weathers. I love how he voiced with the whole Western vibe of the whole thing. He voiced that he had a John Huston vibe with the character, and when he said that, like, oh my God, there is a John Huston vibe. It's perfect. Yes.
And not to mention all the stuff with Werner Herzog too.
Of course, Herzog. Of course, him showing a lot of love towards that baby. Darn it.
It's still kind of. I still think it's kind of all the stuff Herzog has done. It's like kind of weird to pull him into this, but I think and talk about like an admiration for like the actual show and the puppets itself. It's like it's really interesting.
I love the respectful kind of grace and cool factor that Carl Weathers brought here, where it's like, he says, originally we were going to make you an AOM, but we've decided against it. I figured as much. He's just like, he's ready. He says, how can you cover this up? I mean, come on, guys. And that's the thing. If you have the name, why not the face? I've never heard it boiled down like that, but Carl Weathers is a genius. Like, yes, if you have the name, why not show the face? If you can, it's like...
I feel like Carl Weathers in this show is what we wanted Lando in Episode 9 to be.
Pretty much. I mean, it's like that's the thing. I love that he really kind of brought I love that we kind of close things out with Carl Weathers as well in the episode too. Like Dave Filoni's talking about his first time directing a live action. It's like the clunky version of the Mando costume before they figure it out, and it's like this whole.
Didn't he mention like that the first thing he like actually filmed was Werner Herzog?
It was a conversation scene, so I think it might have had Werner Herzog in it. Yeah.
It's like of all the people that like the first thing you ever film in live action, it's him.
Yep, and I love Dave Filoni's like panicking animator like response. Like in his head, he's going, "I could draw this so much faster. I could draw this so much faster." We're just thinking, "Oh God, this is a mistake. He's having trouble getting into the booth. I could draw this."
Because specifically he comes from storyboarding more than anything else.
Yeah, exactly. That's his wheelhouse. That's why that's the thing he did. That was his exceptional thing that he did on Avatar. Of course, built itself into Clone Wars and everything going forward.
Yeah, he only worked on the first season though. He didn't work on anything past season 1.
No, sure.
But still.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
Moving on?
Yeah, moving on.
Okay. Oh my God, this blew my mind. The technology.
Yeah, I know. This thing is one of my other favorite episodes. I had no idea about this thing. I was blown out of the water.
Either, man.
I mean, like, what's the name of that big projector?
The volume. It's called the volume. Well, I mean, the technique I think is technically it's a game engine sort of thing, but they nicknamed the space the volume.
I knew that they used this for Lion King. I knew that much. I had no idea you could apply it in a live action setting, though.
I was like, yeah, but like that was like really interesting. Like they had it tracked to camera, so it moved around panel well. It's like you could almost think that they were actually there, but then they could actually just be on the set. It's like it's nuts.
The great thing about John, I'm sorry, Jacob, continue.
I mean, but yeah, like the integration of like the physical sets, the game engine, basically filming in the volume. It's like mind blowing. You wouldn't be able to tell otherwise.
Okay, so, I have one thought here, and it just kept running through my mind. Like every time we saw the footage of this shit, we need to see this in theme parks. We need to see this in theme parks. God damn it, we need to see this in theme parks. It's the ultimate combination of practical and screens.
You know what? Wouldn't it be mind-bending if you learned, like, again, much like watching this, if you learned that one of the attractions have been, it's been like a false publicity thing where they've actually been using the game engine technology, but it's just been such a flawless
I mean,
solution.
to tell you the truth, oh god, I mean, yeah, that would be mind-bending, yes. But to tell you the truth, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if something like the giant hangar screen in Rise of the Resistance is done through something like that.
So, Jon Favreau, what makes him really unique as a filmmaker is that you can tell us in all his movies, he applies all the previous filmmaking techniques and kind of pluses them each time as he goes forward. Again, you look at Elf, he's using forced perspective, which is kind of the layman's version of what he's doing here.
If you're comparing him to anybody, another person would be Robert Zemeckis with his adherence to technology to improve filmmaking techniques.
Sure.
Well, sure, and again, it's kind of like see a need, fill a need in terms of like kind of applying it. We're creating the technology that we need. Almost like that kind of a Pixar comparison too, where we need new technology. We got to invent new technology to do this impossible thing.
It's like basically it's like it doesn't exist, but we'll make it exist.
Certainly, but it's so genius and next level. And again, it is like as they kind of talk about, as Filoni yet again kind of frames, it's what George Lucas always said, where he was like getting to the point you can make movies in your garages. Where we are now kind of at that point, like a giant garage, you could make movies now using the volume, using this giant kind of basically it's like they're next level seamless green screens that have everything in camera, so the actors don't have to use their imaginations. It was like the thing that was kind of George Lucas's downfall. Now it is absolutely what he pictured in his mind, what he wanted. If he had this at the time, who knows how different things could have gone. It's genius. Again, it's kind of taken we have the practical bottoms that we had in Jungle Book, but we're moving the camera like it and pre-vising it like you do in Lion King. It's like at least something positive came out of Lion King. That's the big takeaway from this. At least one positive thing came out of Lion King, outside of money.
Oh God, yes.
I
don't think money is a positive thing, honestly, because it's going to set a bad precedent.
Well, yeah. Fair enough. Well, you see, I also love that, again, the logical thing, the reason this is created is, okay, we don't want to have to worry about like green being reflected in the Mandalorian's Beskar armor. So again, like let's just reflect the actual light and basically just project it on screens, but let's have the screens in this giant, awesome, cubish, circular space.
I mean,
fooled us all. Even Disney. Even they did a little conference call with Disney. They didn't even know.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Awesome.
They almost kind of, I think didn't they like mention that they actually thought they were on location or something?
Yeah, that's the thing. They thought they were on location. They're like a little sit down, like screen share thing. Yeah.
That's how impressive this volume is.
If I can only pick one thing that blew me out of the water most about the whole thing, it would be this episode in terms of like the filmmaking of all like God,
yeah, absolutely.
One of the things that really impressed me about that is like they actually did like build parts of the Mando ship, like the rest of it in the engine, but you couldn't tell. Like
I know,
it's like, I mean, it looked all like it was all there.
It's like now we're just breaking the boundaries between CG and real life even more. So I know we are using CG, but I'm saying it's gotten even more seamless where it's to the point where you can't spot it anymore. It's right there. It's in camera CG. It's genius. Speaking of effects, let's go. I'm sorry, Jacob. Go on.
No, I was probably going to lead into what you were about to.
Yep.
Speaking of let's go to the practical.
All right.
Yeah. And where the digital effects shine, the physical ones do as well.
That they do. Again, it speaks to it kind of speaks to them being evocative of classic Star Wars with practical makeup, practical effects. Again, reusing some of the kind of the scrap designs and effects from the other and kind of makeups from the other Star Wars movies, taking the D-list characters and kind of playing with as the old Star Wars toys analogy, as it said, like we've taken our brothers. The brother took all the cool toys. We're refurbishing the D-list ones.
But at least we got a Boba Fett.
That we did. We got a silver Boba Fett. We got a variant on Boba Fett, or we customized our Boba Fett.
And seeing all like the stuff with Baby Yoda, like they had like 5 people working on Baby Yoda.
Sure, we got to see the radio control thing again. It's like not even like radio control like it would be in the olden days. Like it's like perfect radio control, like with the little control in your hands though from a distance. Or that baby is moving, it's just moving on its own. Essentially, no wires coming out of the guy except for maybe a little hand puppet, little hand rod for the puppet. I mean. Yeah, the Baby Yoda of it all. Go on.
Oh well, yeah. Go ahead with the Baby Yoda, and then we'll. I want to talk about the lightsaber thingy, but we'll get there.
Right. Yeah, so the Baby Yoda, well, of course, even Werner Herzog, everyone loves Baby Yoda. Even Werner Herzog loves Baby Yoda, and I just love them kind of addressing that. They're all so captivated, and they're all just like, they're all just so captivated by Baby Yoda, and like, the baby still kicks your butt in the performance, Gina. It's like, how can I top that though? It's the baby.
I mean, like seeing all that come together, like how insane that it took like multiple people to actually pull it off. Like they're like, I control the hands, I control the eyes, and stuff like that. Like it was nuts.
I love how it all starts with the pram. It all starts with my favorite shot in the whole series is that the touching of the baby Yoda finger. That's the in the little egg pram. That's where it all starts, and then they get into the trial of the air of like designing the. It starts like an ugly Baby Yoda gets like the new baby Groot as it were. Yeah. Good stuff. So yes, you want to talk about the Darksaber, Tiki?
Yes. I thought it was super cool how we kind of loop back around to original A New Hope lightsabers with the fully physical ones.
Oh yeah,
it's great. And also it called to mind the fact that we have people running around with fully physical lightsabers in Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
And and the funny thing is, considering it's also tying back to a character Favreau played in Clone Wars.
Yes, pre-Vizsla. So I wonder, here's the thing, so that guy is like a descendant, we don't know exactly what the relation is. That guy's another Vizsla. He's another P. Vizsla, but it's not, the original guy's pre-Vizsla, this guy.
There's a Paz Vizsla in the show who's also voiced by Favreau, but yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Because this guy's like Paz Vizsla, and I guess somehow his ancestor is pre-Vizsla.
Seems that way, or
like his son or something. I don't know how distant. It's only been like 20 or 30 years, approximately. But anyway.
I mean, well, for whatever reason, it's now in the hands of Gideon.
Yes, it is now in the hands of Gideon. So, of course, the big thing with the Darksaber as well is that thing, that was used. That's used to kill Jedis. It was a Jedi weapon that has been repurposed. And basically, when Moff Gideon gets that thing out, he means business.
And actually, it was actually kind of cool seeing Giancarlo actually holding a physical Darksaber.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, full costume, everything is like, you can tell. It's like, yeah, he's into it.
Just when you think Giancarlo. Of course,
I vividly remember when this was airing, and we were all like, "There's no way they're going to get Giancarlo for season 2. There's no way." And then, of course, his ship gets shot down, and we're like, "Oh, there it is! There it is!"
Yeah, I mean, look, Giancarlo's dance card's a little full. He's got the boys, he's got Better Call Saul, and he's got Mando. But who's complaining? There's enough Giancarlo to go around. So,
all right.
Can't get enough of good old Gus.
I want to talk about the stop motion blurg here. That was, oh god, I had no idea the blurgs were stop motion. It was from the distance. It did the old stop motion shot, which looked great.
Courtesy of Stupid Buddy.
Yeah. IG-11, of course, they used kind of a practical IG-11 for some shots, get the rickety thing going on in there, where he's just kind of being rolled around, and they kind of used that for most of the shots and kind of CG at the bottom. But I love they're approaching it like there's no actor. We can't just do a K2SO on this. We can't just have Alan Tudyk kind of like there in the moment, then just like CG him later.
But this is kind of like jumping ahead of it, but I really like how they put out like, oh yeah, IG-11's so cool. It's like he didn't do anything. It was like, yeah, because he was bolted to the floor because of reused props from Mos Eisley.
And again, if you every time you look at Mos Eisley, you see IG-11's head. He's like the mixer thing.
I didn't actually realize that until they pointed it out.
I've always noticed that little IG head thing. I always thought it was a coincidence as a kid. When I was younger, I thought it was like a coincidence. Like, wait a minute, that's
yeah. Like I said, I personally never noticed that, so that's like something I learned from this.
Yeah, it's cool, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing, again, IG being another example, again, we've recycled iconography and we've applied like a new way to bring it to life in a way it never was brought to life before. And of course, Guillermo del Toro's miniature tip was awesome too. In fact, like just saying, well, we don't really need miniatures, but if you build a miniature, the director gets to keep it. Johnny boy, I'm just telling you.
And then they did like a bunch of pride mini shots of his ship.
Yeah, the Razor Crest. Jon Favreau's got a little Razor Crest. Okay.
You can tell that they're like basically big kids playing with their toys.
Oh yeah, and the fun is felt all around. So that said, let's talk process.
All right. This is the 19-minute one, right?
It was the 18-minute one, yeah. Because I mean, process.
Okay.
It's pretty. It's once you establish the process itself, it's kind of self-explanatory. There's not a whole lot you can really add to the process.
Yeah, I mean, this one is probably the one that stuck the least with me, but I mean, it is probably like maybe like half the length of most of the episodes, so you can't really blame it too much.
I mean, there was one standout there when he used the Snow White comparison, which is really interesting, where he's basically pointing out that Snow White again, the fact that there's still like cut footage of Snow White that was never like finished, and it's like the idea of like how
Very true.
something that's so when you have an animated movie, everything is kind of like it's like Brad Bird's philosophy, use every part of the buffalo, which they also adopted for this show, by the way. For himself, he uses the every part of the buffalo analogy. You repurpose everything. Is the fact that how can there be footage that's not used when you put heart and soul into it? It's basically that's the importance of the process here. Where again, the importance of previs, where they map out every shot so it kind of works like a well-oiled machine in terms of the staging.
It's kind of like what Alfred Hitchcock did. Like he had everything storyboarded first before he shot it.
True.
Okay.
I mean, so it's kind of similar, except in this case, they're basically using a game engine to map up the episodes and basically give a way for the directors to know what they're doing as well.
And the other thing they did, again, they pulled from kind of classic Star Wars, like what George Lucas did, where he basically, he lined up as like a storyboard for certain footages. He used like as like kind of a test reel, as it were, like to demonstrate like here's what we're looking for tone wise. He would edit, he'd edit old war movies into the the big kind of the TIE fighter sequence, and it kind of did that here with like citing stuff like Kurosawa, which of course leads to kind of the lone wolf and cub of it all, and kind of the westerns. He used some westerns for certain things. They kind of pull a little bit of that, at least in terms of in staging and conceiving of the stuff as well.
All right.
All right.
So score.
Good old Ludwig Göransson.
Yes.
I really like how this episode was pretty much like a personal showcase of this guy.
And can I just say, it's like based on like what he's done, I thought he'd actually be a bit older.
Yeah, and I feel like it is a nice kind of like inspirational sort of like pick yourself up by the bootstraps kind of story.
I love that he was roommates with Ryan Coogler, and that's why he's in some part. That's why he's doing the score on Black Panther, which is awesome. Like, yeah, it's his old roommate, buddy.
Well, he's done all of Ryan Coogler's films, though.
I didn't. Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
He's been. I didn't know he did Creed. Okay, that's hilarious.
And Fruitvale.
Yeah. Well, and I know Coogler. I'm saying that Gorson did the score for them.
Yep, Göransson has done currently all of Coogler's films.
Well, now we know why.
But
that and he's really good too. So a little bit.
Yeah, and now he's also put his foot into Star Wars.
So I love how Gorson here kind of boiled it down to a 3-part formula where you take kind of the classic 70s kind of score, as it were, very Star Wars-esque. You then kind of feed it through a computer, as it were, kind of computerize it. And basically, he futzes with it a little bit. And then he adds kind of an 80-piece orchestra, once he figures out kind of the eclectic sounds, he's going like old school, certain like the woodwinds and everything, and he's doing the little guitar of the theme.
And with how he started basically started with like the woodwinds and like the and all that.
I love that's how the episode started too. We just got to see it kind of like it birthed before our eyes, and a little drum beat,
And considering having like a full orchestra is actually rare in a lot of TV these days, it's actually pretty interesting to see them do all that.
I love that he spoke to the importance and kind of the evolution of the theme too, because we see 2 themes kind of created archivally here. We see Hammer Time, which is basically the big flashback sequence, and he kind of realized he's not scoring like one movie, he's scoring like 3 films and needs like a through line to connect him. And the through line was my favorite piece of score was the asset, which is right after he kills IG-11. Don't worry, kids, he comes back. Then he dies again, but he comes back. Basically the kind of the Baby Yoda theme, as it were. Like it gets like dun dun dun. The kind of the guitar theme comes in there, and that builds into the big bombastic Mando theme. Yeah.
It's like basically, he's basically he compared to like scoring 3 films at the exact same time.
Yeah. Dave.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, go on.
Like, that's no mean feat. I mean, he was able to pull it off very well, surprisingly.
Yeah, of course, the music also kind of it helps convey emotion in a character who doesn't have a face, which again is really important too. The music kind of aids in the emotion. But yeah, Filoni, he spoke to the disadvantage of making Star Wars now, when basically, back then they were able to make Star Wars not knowing at all how big it was going to be. And of course, you look at it now, like, oh god, now you have all this pressure, and like now you know how Star Wars sounds like. How are you going to approach it? And of course, Gorson is okay. Well, Kevin Smith's always used kind of the Planet of the Apes analogy. The show feels, especially with the credits, feels very Planet of the Apes-esque, old school Planet of the Apes. And again, I think that kind of comes through. It's like very much a ground up and original score.
Oh yeah.
All right, last one.
All right, Connections.
This might be the best episode. It's one of the best. The Legacy is great. This is one of the great episodes, too.
I got to be honest with you. I love the stuff with the stormtroopers. That was probably my favorite part. Outside of that stuff, I wasn't a big fan of like, oh, hey, look at all these cool deep cut references.
They were a little heavy on showing the. I mean, it was cool to see them though.
A little bit self-congratulatory.
I mean, it was them.
If I'm being honest with you, I maybe would have ended on Legacy and had this as episode 2.
You got to admit, though, I mean, the ice cream maker story was awesome.
Yeah, no, I like all the stories for sure. I don't know. I feel like it was an odd one to end on.
It was earned, okay. I think they earned like this showing off, like, hey, look at all our cool Easter. They wanted to get them in there somewhere, so they put in the last one to make sure it got in. All right.
It's like the riverboat at the end of Splash Mountain. All the leftover animatronics from America's things. Wow, what do we do with all these? Fuck it, just throw it on a riverboat. They're all having a party.
I really like the ice cream stories. I like how like they talk about how nuts it can get, like the running of those characters.
I love he's just taking this really obscure thing, but he's giving like a practical purpose. Like he turns it like the ice cream maker into the Cantono, which carried the Beskar.
And
Wilro Hood. The running of the hoods, the running of the Wilros with all the ice cream. I had no idea this was a thing.
Me neither.
It's so ridiculous. And I guess it's a great pull from Empire. Yeah, they're all running around. You never thought, like, I wonder if you really look at one of these guys, like, what is he carrying? It's awesome.
I mean, they even kind of point out how kind of ridiculous it is.
And I love how Jon Favreau's giddy as a schoolboy to talk about this, and Dave Filoni, absolutely being the consummate, like, he's the biggest Star Wars fan in the room. You got to imagine. And he's like, he knows all the ins and outs because he did Clone Wars. So him knowing this, like, preparing Bryce Dallas Howard. Okay, Bryce, good. Act like you're interested, man. No one's interested in this, but go on. It's really fun.
They're like, I can tell you're thrilled, Bryce.
And basically what they hit on with like the Wilro Hood of it all and just kind of like the Easter eggs of it all is they kind of hit on like the charm of Mandalorian is they're in the complete opposite position of what was going on at the time with Episode 9, where they're going for, instead of like the biggest like on the nose pulls, like we got all the Jedi doing the voices, man. We're going for the deepest, most obscure pulls in there, and the D-list characters and the background guys and the ice cream makers. We're going for all that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And of course, I love Dave Filoni's history with the blurgs. Tiki, you want to speak to the little Filoni history with the blurgs?
Oh, you can go ahead, Dragon. It's fine.
Yeah, it's from the one of the most obscure pieces of Star Wars, like the Ewok Battle for Endor.
Right. Oh yeah.
And again, this is where I believe this is specifically where he drops the analogy, like the older brother took all the cool toys and we painted the Boba Fett silver. And again, they legitimized the toys. They took the famous troop transport and they made it into like we actually see it happen. I mean, we were all. I remember we were kind of having a. I think we brought this up on the thing. We were like, "Hey, it's a troop transport."
And I remember they were also like talking about like they were showing George Lucas like the Mando's gun, like they
from the holiday special,
and he denied it.
And he's like that's canon, right? He's like, not really. He was just like so. He's like he was just so matter of fact, but he's like, yeah, no.
Good. And hey, here's the thing we shouldn't forget though. Again, they actually showed footage of the Holly. They hadn't done that since like one DVD moment on the episode 2 way back when. Since we've ever seen the footage actually on.
Was it an Empire of Dreams at all?
Not an Empire of Dreams, but it is in the. It's in People versus George Lucas. But again,
that's probably what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's them using the bootleg. I'm saying like using a version that has to be used and kind of fed into kind of something that's okayed by Lucasfilm. That hasn't happened since like the DVD way back when. We get footage of it here. it's pretty pretty big because now George Lucas isn't the one saying, I don't know if I want to use that, because now he can't say no. But I love, though, even though he can't say no officially, he can say no when he's featured in the thing. Where he's like, no, he's like taking the legs out of Jon Favreau just a little bit. Where he's like, Jon Favreau just wants to legitimize. He wants to do that holiday special thing so badly. It's like, yeah, George, do you recognize it? It's canon, right? Like, not really. He's just not cop to it. He just won't give him it. It's awesome. So then they kind of, we already talked about the Dark Saber, the R5 thing. Dave Filoni bringing back R5.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like the whole bad motivator of it all too. I love, like, here's the thing I love most about it. I love how he just kind of illustrated it was like on the day. He's like, you paint him red and give him like the little blown out thing on the back just to show that he's aged. Like there's like an on the fly, just really smart judgment call. And as you mentioned, the Stormtroopers, the 501st, it wasn't really a heartwarming story. I got to be honest. Like, the fact that these guys are the most passionate Star Wars fans that do really the best stuff for the community. They got to be in Star Wars. That's beautiful.
And the thing
I'm
is,
a sucker for these kind of stories. I really am.
It's the costumes in Tiki. They made their costumes. They made. I learned this like I watched the thing on the 501st ones, where basically to be a member of the 501st, you have to build your own Stormtrooper costume. You can't buy it. You have to build it from scratch. All of their hand-built Stormtrooper costumes, and they find out on the day, like, oh god, we're driving on the set of Star. This is Star Wars.
Yeah, like they didn't even know that they were like okay, it's Lucasfilm. Like this, they basically said this isn't the first time Lucasfilm has called us to do something, but they didn't realize they'd actually be in the show. Like it's like that was like probably like made a lot of their lives basically.
Also, this is like the one time I've never been able to recognize Mark Hamill doing a voice of something here. Mark Hamill is EV-99. He's the bartender. I had no idea he was the bartender.
Yeah, he was uncredited.
I know, yeah, he was uncredited. I couldn't recognize him in the voice either. It's just really cool. Oh my god, Mark Hamill.
Yeah, and he pointed out that he even like had like secret roles in all of the and basically all the Disney Star Wars films so far.
Yeah, because I know I spotted him in the 9, so he's doing like he's the informant guy. He gets his head cut off by Kylo Ren. So that's on the whole with all this. I love that they're really justifying where it's not fan service. It's not like forced fan service. It's stuff that makes sense logically in the repurposing of everything. That's how we can bring things back. R5 would be on Tatooine. He never left. And Uncle and Beru are dead. Where's he gonna go? He's gonna wander in the droid bar now.
I like it. That's how you also talk about like the logic of droids running the bar.
Yeah, which is great. So one thing we should mention before we get out of here, the X-wing pilot thing, which is so cute, and I never realized that the directors were the X-wing pilots in Episode 6. The Dave Filoni being a self-conscious X-wing pilot.
I mean, I knew that they were them, but I didn't know that Dave was conscious about it.
Looks like a giant grape. That's hilarious. I think he looks fine, but I'm sad. Here's the
my favorite part was like how I was like basically if I don't do this, John's gonna keep giving me crap about it.
Anytime I see, again, I love how Jon Favreau defers to being a big kid about things. He's like the kid down the block you hang out with, and that's kind of the sense you get from Jon Favreau, where it's like, it's like, oh, let's play my Star Wars toys, guys, come on.
Only it's like a $150 million toy.
Absolutely, and of course, Tiki, I'm sure you appreciate this. They put him in the X-wing that's in Galaxy's Edge.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's great.
And his name was
Trapper Wolf.
Yep, he's a big fan of wolves.
That he is. It's always weird to see him without the hat because he's always wearing that giant, awesome cowboy hat.
He pulls it off really well, honestly.
He does. All right, so Tiki, unless you got anything else here, I mean,
Claude's in the comments here. He's just asking us about the controversy going down with the recasting of voice actors, and honestly, Claude, that might be something that would be better left to a movie memoirs news conversation. But generally speaking, I do think it's a rather case by case basis. But I stand with Cree Summers, and God damn it, I think Cree Summers should have some fucking authority over this situation. And Cree Summers thinks that, voice acting is voice acting. One of the reasons she loves the medium is because you can be anyone you want to be. And restricting it to, you can only play your own skin color, she thinks is kind of ridiculous. So, while, yeah, I do think that, Mike Henry voicing Cleveland Brown, he's, maybe not the most when we look back on it, not the most tasteful thing in the world. I definitely think it's a case-by-case thing. I really do. And I don't think it should be a standard. And like I said, I really, truly think that Cree Summer should be like the authority on this type of shit, and nobody's listening to her. So that pisses me off more than anything else, honestly.
Right. Just to bring it back to Star Wars before we end out here, is also what I'm going to bring up. I love the IG-88 toy commercial that they worked in there too. It was such a perfect piece of footage from the use when they're making their IG-8 like recycled action figures point. We're like, hey, we got to repurpose IG-88, and of course, like he's the action figure being put in the Darth Vader case. It's like it's awesome. Yeah, final thoughts, guys.
I think this very much continues the Disney Plus trend of just great docuseries, and I honestly think that docuseries might be the little sort of maybe the hidden gem in Disney Plus's catalog. Like we all thought that it was going to be the MCU stuff, but we're not getting that anytime soon. And I truly think that if they just keep pumping out stuff like this, and if that Frozen 2 documentary is what you say it is, Dragon, and there's a twinge of like, there's a little bit of a sort of, this is going to be a divisive film and it's going to have divisive results, and I'm very interested in that. And so this is just I expect nothing but good things for the docuseries on Disney Plus going forward. And I think it's a little bit of a niche that Disney Plus has carved out for themselves.
Do you think they're going to do more of these Disney galleries? I mean, considering the Mandalorian is kind of like the subtitle, it leads me to think they're like at least going to do like more.
Yeah, you think they'd have to, right?
I fully expect to see more Disney galleries.
It'd be really weird if that wasn't just like the banner for like this sort of like, hopefully they're going to take, I don't know if they're going to fully just rip off Favreau's style here with the whole, let's sit them all down, round table it. But if they do, if they're pulling from good stocks, I'm not going to fault them for it. But that's what I'm saying. I wonder if they're going to keep that up or just like use the moniker and just do whatever they're going to do.
I hope they at least do. Hope they'd also do at least something for season 2.
Oh, they got. I mean,
I'm honestly kind of surprised they didn't put the Frozen 2 thing under the moniker.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I wonder if maybe I don't. Well, at the very least, I'm sure they're going to do it for Mando going forward. Maybe like the Kenobi thing as well. At least the Star Wars stuff's probably going to be under.
I mean, perhaps like the gallery would be stuff like Disney Plus exclusives.
That's true. Sure. That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, that's final thoughts.
Oh God, this is gonna sound like the most redundant thing ever, but I'd love a Disney gallery on the Imagineering story.
I mean, I don't know if anyone else would watch it. I would.
I mean, considering the process that it took to make that thing.
I mean, you got to remember, iWorks. She's really interesting as a filmmaker. So
definitely. I'd love to
sit down with her. I mean, after you've done Pixar story, Imagineering story, and I believe she's still. I forget if she's going to do that thing on her father or not. On iWorks anyway. Okay. Yeah, that's what I meant. I probably have a father. Anyway, final thoughts from me. I continue to be impressed with Disney Plus's docuseries. I think as we all are here. It's next level version of Dinner for Five, which has kind of made an epic return here. And Dave Filoni is certainly the MVP. Again, Lucasfilm. Pay attention. Watch your own stuff. Just look at that episode. Look at him. Look at the boy with all his excitement, all his vigor for Star Wars, and tell me that guy shouldn't be in charge. Tell me that.
And I'm also telling you, get John Favreau in charge as a Disney on camera figurehead, man.
There you go.
On camera figurehead. I swear to God, he's got the chops for it. He's got Walt era charm.
This is the way, folks. This is the way.
All right.
Jacob, any final thoughts?
I mean, I can't really say anything else that you guys haven't, so I'll just leave it with I have spoken. Or no, we have spoken.
We have spoken. All right. Well, that was going to be my ending tag. So, Dragon, I'm going to kind of ask you to come out with another ending tag as I do the outro. Sorry. Do you think you can do that? It's all good, Jacob. Do you think you got that, Dragon?
Sure. It's not going to be great, but I got something. Sure.
Okay. That'll do it for us for this week as we holster our remotes till the next installment calls for the draw. Mano y mano, just Plus and Us.
Hey, baby, do the magic hand thing.